A few weeks back, I attended Summer Game Fest with my colleagues Craig from Pure Xbox, Steven from Push Square, and Alana here from Nintendo Life, and we played a ton of different games that are coming to the Nintendo Switch. And some of them we actually had to keep a secret. As it turns out, they were appearing in the latest Nintendo Direct. We played over 17 games at Summer Game Fest, so get ready as we're about to give you our thoughts on all of them. And there are timestamps included down below if you want to hop around, but we highly suggest you sit through the whole thing, as we played a surprising amount of good stuff. And don't forget to sound off with your favorite games in the comments down below. So the first game on our list, you actually got to play, Alana, and it's called Afterlove EP.
Yes, I did play this one. Yes, a beautiful hand-drawn visual novel style game, which many of the developers who worked on Coffee Talk was one of them. Obviously, Mohamed Fahmy, who passed away sadly in 2022, I believe. He was one of the creative directors, and he was the one who brought everyone together on this project. And Jakarta, which is the capital of Indonesia, is like one of the places he most loved in the world. And the whole game is set in Jakarta, and you play as this guy who's in a band and he loves music, and you see his girlfriend and him have this great relationship, and then you find out she's passed away. And this boy like uses music as like an escape mechanism, but also like as a way of dealing with his girlfriend's death, because he can't like forget her. And multiple times throughout the game she's supposed to like pop up and talk to him. And it's not just like a visual novel. There's like we only played like 15 minutes of it, but in the beginning you do like a little music rhythm game. There's no like pressure on you to score it like perfectly or anything like that. It's just a level of interactivity which like helps tie everything together in the narrative.
Yeah, it's nice to hear like how laid back these rhythm sections are, because I remember like as a kid playing Parappa the Rapper and not really being able to get very far, even with stuff like Elite Beat Agents on the DS. I always had trouble getting into the later levels, and recently I tried playing Guitar Man on PS2.
Oh my gosh.
And sometimes it can just be like so soul crushing when you just want to like progress in the story in a game like this, and you just can't because you are bad at rhythm or something. But it really does seem like there's like a big world to explore and lots of set pieces to keep you busy just outside of the narrative, or to keep you engaged in the narrative.
Yeah, it seems really thoughtful, which is what I would expect from that team. I think this is the first game they've made together as a group. You said Zion, which I really agree with. It does have some kind of Scott Pilgrim vibes, but like a wholesome vibe, I would say. It's like, there's no like super ex-boyfriends or girlfriends or anything like that. It's all just like, what if Ramona had died and how would Scott deal with that? But instead it's an Indonesian couple celebrating Indonesian culture. And I remember on Day of the Devs, which this game featured in, all of the music is recorded by an actual band from Jakarta, Indonesia. So
wow.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. A really lovely celebration of like a city that doesn't really get a lot of advertisement in the West. So I think that'll be really fun.
Yeah, especially too, like, I mean, you were saying that the original creative director Fahmy passed away. I was talking with the rep as well at the booth while you were playing, and I'm not sure if you caught this, but they were saying that like the publishers at least like fully gave like permission to the team to like walk away from this project if that's what they wanted. Like no questions asked, and I think they took maybe like 6 months or a year to like think about it, and then like kind of in that Day of the Devs piece they like all just agreed that they wanted to come back together and make this game. Seems really important.
It's a celebration for sure.
Do you know if it has a release date yet, or if it's just kind of up in the air?
They said Q3 or Q4, but they've also said October. So October is what they're aiming for, but they're giving themselves the wider window just in case there are any problems. So it'll be before the end of the year, let's say.
So you also played A Ranger, which sort of looks like a role-playing game, but funny enough, it's actually being called a role-puzzling game.
That's right, yeah. It's a complete puzzle box. It's totally delightful, honestly. This was revealed during, I think it was the February partner showcase, so during a Nintendo Direct. And I remember it really standing out for like that. The artist from Braid worked on this, and the writer from Kato, and the puzzle designer of Ethereal, which is a PC-only puzzler game. And so this all comes together to create this like puzzle game that also has a story. So it's like a typical coming-of-age story wrapped around this like Zelda/grid-based aesthetic. It is a lot more like brain twisting than I thought it was going to be. Like I remember trying to like, I was sitting down and the whole idea is like you move Gemma, the main character, and when she moves up or down or left and right, like the whole column or row will move when she's on, but it will also move everything else on that row or column. So you're like knocking things down, moving cats or moving plant pots and stuff like that. So you really have to pay attention to like where everything is placed. But there's also like world wrapping as well. So if you go all the way to the left, you'll pop out on the right side. It's such a simple idea. And you're like, oh, this makes total sense. But then when you start moving around, you're like, oh, goodness, I have to think about like so many different things.
Just seeing how you moved from the beginning of the demo to the end, it was a massive change.
It does such a fantastic job of teaching you how to play. Like, nothing feels impossible. And there are some settings as well that you can turn on. There's some really great accessibility options where you can like not turn on a hint system, but there's like a little guide system which will suggest what you need to move to next. Or you can just skip the puzzles entirely. But the game does such a fantastic job of like teaching you by not holding your hand, and that every little like puzzle you solve, every little movement you make is like a eureka moment, right? It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then you can apply that directly to like the next puzzle or like 20 puzzles down the line. Yeah, so I think this is going to be really fantastic on Switch. I'm really, really jazzed to play some more of it.
It's worth mentioning too that while editing this video, I realized that there's actually a demo for Afterlove EP and Arranger on Steam as well. So you can go download that and play them right now on your PC, or if you have a Steam Deck, you can play it on the go too.
So, we know the Switch is known for cozy games, and we got to play a couple at Summer Game Fest, but one of the ones we got brief time with was Critter Café, which is by a new subsidiary of Sumo Digital. This is like a really nice twist on like a cafe management game where you just grow and look after critters. So it's like a cat cafe sim, really. But we didn't get a ton of time with this. What did you think of it, Zion?
I feel like the game was just trying to do too many things to sort of like check the boxes of what a cozy game should be. I do appreciate the aspects where you can go out and actually find the creatures in the world and kind of solve some simplistic puzzles. But the game doesn't really seem like it's doing anything that different so far. And I think we've seen a pretty early build of the game, but we only got shown a 15-minute demo, and you only got to play hands-on for a little bit, right?
I played a couple of minutes. The only bit I played was when you rescued the critter. So we got shown like how to manage the cafe and how to like fulfill customer orders and stuff like that. But then there's a second half to the game where you can go in rifts and save these creatures, and then you can bring them back to the cafe to be like, to do things for you or to be pet, basically. And that was the bit I got to play. And yeah, it was pretty basic. It was just like move some blocks around, break some crystals, things like that. The critter designs are really cute, but yeah, I think on the whole I agree with you, Zion. I think that cozy has become such a synonymous term with like anything that involves like management sims or farming games or anything like that. And I think it really has to do something to like stand out, which the critter stuff is slightly different, but yeah, I mean, the build we got to play around with was definitely an early build. The developers said that at the time. So one of the secret appointments we got at Summer Game Fest, which was teased a few weeks beforehand, is Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. My gosh, this was announced like 3 years ago.
Right.
And then it disappeared, and then it reappeared as like a teaser for the anniversary for Dragon Quest a couple of weeks back. And then it was at Summer Game Fest, in secret, hiding away somewhere.
We can't say where, but it was there.
In gorgeous, gorgeous fashion, and oh my goodness.
Yeah, we got to spend 45 minutes with it, or half an hour or something like that in the end.
Yeah, it was 45 minutes, and we just basically got like dropped into it. They were like, here you go, here's 4 characters, here's the early game, do this. Just get to this point if you want, or explore, or do whatever you want. And yeah, it felt so authentically NES, but also felt so modernized in many different ways, which is like a really impressive feat, I think. I know of its significance in Japan. It's like really the big Dragon Quest. When people ask you like Dragon Quest, it's like 3 or 5 or 8 or 11, you know, those are the ones that people will often bring up, and 3 really is the stamp on the series, I think.
Do we exactly know what teams are coming together to make this yet? I thought it was like the Triangle Strategy you were saying, and maybe Team Asano might be working on this too?
Yeah, that's right. So it's Art Dink, who worked on Triangle Strategy, and Team Asano, who is obviously the Triangle Strategy, Octopath Traveler, Live Alive remake developers. So, and it looks like even better than Octopath 2. Like, it's definitely running on a lower resolution on Switch, and it's 30 FPS, but it still looks great. Like, the lighting effects in those games are just amazing, and they really lean into it in Dragon Quest III HD 2D.
It's interesting to think about like how far this game has come. Like you were saying, the roots, like you can still, like if you were to change the graphics, like I think a lot of it would still just feel like a Famicom or an NES game, because it's very simplistic. Even like when you jump into a battle, or like when you finish the battle and your EXP screen pops up, I noticed like it felt a little slow going, you know, or like it just like even the auto battle system is a little like I didn't realize how to turn auto battle on, but there are some like the speed adjustments, so you can kind of, you know, grind out battles a little bit quicker.
Yeah, the speed adjustments are super helpful.
But graphically, like, yeah, it's insane to think about that this, like, the blueprints were kind of from like an original NES. Yeah, and there were some nice little like tutorial menus too that I noticed that they like popped up on screen. Like, as somebody who hasn't played many Dragon Quests either, it felt like I was getting the information like I would have read in a manual, but I was getting that on the screen instead as just like little prompts.
Yeah, it was super cool to see. Like little tutorials. There's also like a memory system now where if you talk to a character, you can commit that statement to memory, and that's really helpful for remembering where items are, because they'll give you like hints to like move on the story or tell you where items or side quests are hidden away and stuff like that. I also remember seeing sparkling points on the map, so you can like farm items. You get like healing items from those, or like money. And then there's also like secret areas, we call them, which are, they're like trees on the map, and it's basically like a tiny little area where there's like a treasure chest. I think I picked up like a powerful sword from one of them, which made battling really easy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like as grindy as the original game either. We've really only been given like a dip in the ocean, honestly. Like, we were told about the job system, which is really the thing that defines Dragon Quest III, I think, is like that like job or pass system, which Final Fantasy III also did, and original Final Fantasy II. But Dragon Quest III's is really fleshed out, and I've heard that, or at least Square Enix told us that they're planning to do some stuff with that, which they couldn't tell us about at the time, so maybe we'll find out more. Yeah, to see this suddenly come back and be coming out this year, it's November 14th, I believe, so we haven't, you know, it's like the next couple of months on all platforms.
Yeah, and even the dialogue, they said too, like they've kept it very like, I don't want to say old-timey, but it feels very like authentic to what it originally is or was.
Yeah,
but they said they'll kind of be building on a few different things, or changing the dialogue here and there.
Oh yeah, there's definitely they've teased maybe expanding on it a little bit more, like the story in particular. So I don't know what that means. The fun thing I love about like modern day Dragon Quest localizations is that they really lean into like regional accents. So if you've played like Dragon Quest XI, you'll know that there's like a town that's based around ancient Japan, and everyone talks in haikus, or there's like a town that's meant to be like Venice, so everyone talks with Italian accents, or there's another one that's like Spain, and so they really lean into like the regional or even like continental accents or country accents that we have in the real world, but apply them to like the fantasy world of Dragon Quest, and they seem to be doing that really consistently here as well. Like there's lots of like common, you know, Northern English talk throughout the dialogue.
I'm also very curious as well, since when we demoed this game, it was only being pitched as Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. So at the time of releasing, at the time that this video gets released, is it gonna be Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3?
Who knows?
We don't know. Well, you'll have to let us know in the comments below what happened. Tell future us what's up, or past us, I guess, rather, because we're living in the past right now.
We are living in the past, like Dragon Quest III is. But you know what also takes us back?
Oh, I do.
Fear the Spotlight, yeah.
Oh, so I didn't get to play this at all. I watched you play the whole time, and you offered, you know, but I was enjoying watching you run through it. I mean, horror games are also just the kind of thing that you can sit back and watch couch co-op and almost like watch your friend's expression or something, or see, you know, just to see how it goes. But yeah, it looked so much like a Silent Hill game.
Oh,
I was very happy to see it.
It really does. It's like Silent Hill meets Buffy meets like really cool camp, like teen horror. It's not super camp, honestly, but like I feel like the two girls wandering around a school, like we've all seen those TV shows or horror moments, right, where it's just like two teenagers like, oh, we're going to use a Ouija board, and then it all goes wrong. And that's essentially what the demo was like for Fear the Spotlight. But like I was so impressed with how confident like the visual style, which is like, it is basically Silent Hill on PS1, but not, you know, with HD textures and stuff like that.
And you were even kind of saying as well, like it was a little like finicky to control at times.
Yeah,
and whatnot as well, which Silent Hill it definitely is. But I didn't see you getting like stuck.
100%. I mean, I got lost at one point where I was trying to find Amy in the library, but that was just more for like that was the lighting, and also, you know, again, that's like such a crucial part of a horror game is like how the game uses lighting. But I was mostly just impressed with like the sound design in this game. Like I made you wear the headphones for a while because I wanted you to hear like how the rain in the background like worked, and also like how compressed the dialogue and the sound effects all sounded. Like it sounded like it was recorded on like or played through a gramophone or something. It was really cool. They really understood what they're going for.
Yeah, it was crunchy in a way that like teleports you back to a different time. It didn't feel like a restriction or something that was like imposed or like, you know, thrown onto the game unnecessarily. Like they were really just trying to sell the time and era of a game that, you know, we would have played back in the day, but be thoughtful and like meticulous with like their you know, their intentions and everything. Like I loved the way too that the game didn't use touch controls, you know, like you played on a controller and a TV and everything, but I loved like when you had to interact with like a sliding glass cabinet that had like a bunch of knickknacks and things in it, you had to like actually move. I don't know how you did it, but it looked like you were like mimicking touch controls in the sense of like moving the door actually open instead of just like tapping the door and then watching it open, because so many horror games fall into that. They take the gameplay away from you almost at times instead. This
is all about like you basically press the X button and then like you move the analog stick to like open the door or close the door. Like it was really cool because it plays into the gameplay as well when you get the Ouija board out and then like you put your hands on like the thing and you like prove to me that you can use it, and then if you like wiggle the Ouija board, I don't remember what it's called, but you know, the thing that you put your hands on.
Oh, the little thing that you hold.
Yeah, like if you move it around too much, like Amy gets annoyed at you. She's like, don't do that. And it's like, I guess I'm supposed to let the ghost do it, or whatever is doing it, you know? So yeah, it really cleverly implements controls into the actual dialogue or gameplay.
That's a really fun co-op thing as well that I didn't even consider, because, you know, I watched you do that, but I didn't, like, you had headphones on, and so I wasn't trying to bug you too much, but like I didn't know if you were actually moving it yourself, you know? So like you could have played tricks on me as well and just been like, oh no, I wasn't moving it at all, you know?
I'm really excited to see more of this. This was briefly out on Steam for a bit last year, but the developers like pulled it within a couple of weeks because of this Blumhouse deal. And I gotta say, actually, honestly, Blumhouse games like showing during Summer Game Fest Live was really interesting. They have some really good stuff coming, and Fear the Spotlight is coming to all platforms, including Switch, which is great. But I'll be really interested to see like what other horror games that they're bringing to the table, because there's a really, really solid, good early mix here, I think. Something less scary, don't you think, Zion?
Oh yeah, quite. Are you talking about Hello Kitty Island Adventure? Is that it?
Yes, I am talking about Hello Kitty Island Adventure, which is an Apple Arcade game, and it's coming to Switch before other consoles as well, which is great. Sometime in 2025, I think.
This is something that I wasn't expecting to love so much, and I want like it. I hope people like believe us when we. when we say things like that, you know, it's kind of like an Animal Crossing, like where you're like running around this village as your own custom created character, and you're making friends with all the characters. You have to give them gifts and just try to like make them happy, I guess, on the island.
Pretty much.
But the cool thing that like I really liked was that it's not like Animal Crossing where you have like 300 potential villagers that can live on your island. Was it like 18 or something like that?
Yeah, they're all like really popular Sanrio characters. So obviously Hello Kitty's there. My Melody is one of them.
Oh yeah, Retsuko or Agretsuko?
Agretsuko is definitely in there, but a little bit later down the line. Gudetama makes an appearance, but not as a villager.
Oh,
like,
right. You can like take pictures with Gudetama instead. It's like a little like activity. At least that's what we saw.
Pochiko as well, who's the little dog. Like if it's a popular Sanrio character, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really like that curated feel, because it feels like, and you brought this up during our gameplay demo, Zion, like sometimes with villagers in Animal Crossing, they can feel like the dialogue gets repeated very often, so the villagers don't really have their personalities. They fit like one of like 7 or 8 archetypes, and they follow that like system that Animal Crossing implements, which when you've got like 300 villagers, sure, that's like makes sense. But Hello Kitty Island Adventure, every single character felt like very different, and they all have their specific needs and their specific loves and a specific purpose on the island as well. Like My Melody runs the furniture shop, and she also can fix bridges. You've got one of the other characters has a fishing station who also sells comic books.
Oh, that's
because
right.
those two things are things. Like, okay, fine. And then Pochiko gives you a camera so you can take pictures with Gudetama. Like, so every single character has like a purpose. And the way we're describing it, it's probably worth pointing out as well that like, there's like a whole quest system. It's not just like be happy, live on the island, make others happy. This is like, there's like puzzles and like quests to fulfill and a storyline. And the developer described it as like a little bit of Breath of the Wild influence in there. She compared Gudetama to Koroks, as a collectible kind of thing. And there are temples, like ruins, where you have to solve like really simple puzzles. Like, I was shocked. I was shocked at the stuff you could do here. It was like, I was really excited for this because Hello Kitty's like super cute, and I'm like always want Hello Kitty to have like a good video game. And I knew this was really popular on Apple Arcade. Like, I regularly see it as like the number 1 or 2 selling or most played game on the service. Yeah. It lives up to that so far. Like, just from an hour of playing, it's lived up to that.
For the record as well, we had, like, was it like a 30-minute demo, you think? And we ended up playing the game for an entire hour instead. And this was the end of the day. It was like, we had already been at Summer Game Fest for 7 hours demoing games, which is a lot of fun, but it's also just, it's really taxing. It just was so easy to just like keep playing. And like, I remember when I found out that there was a stamina gauge, because you could climb like ladders and climb rock walls and things like that. I remember like freaking out of just happiness, because it just was something like, there were so many little things that caught me off guard. And this really does feel like I think it's going to be a great like entry game for kids that like, maybe have played Animal Crossing before, or maybe just haven't ever played a game, and will be able to like get their feet wet with like some of these different gameplay styles and puzzles. But at the same time, it also kind of feels like something that has like enough quality and enough care put into it that like it'll be a good game for adults to just turn their brain off and play. And maybe that's why it is so like highly regarded on Apple Arcade already.
Yeah, I'm genuinely scared for my playtime next year. Like, my social life is gonna dip because I'll have this to play, and I'll be in love with it, I think, anyway. At least from like watching you play it, it was just kind of delightful to see you like toy around with things. Also, you get to make your own character.
Right.
You get to make your own Sanrio character, and that's like really, really exciting. You had a little duck fella, didn't you, Zion, who was just like adorable.
Dressed him up in like an egg crown and an egg dress. And the Switch build that we played to, for the record, looks pretty rough right now, like frame rate wise. Visually, it looks like, I think in still images, it's going to look nice, but yeah, they've still got some work to do on that. But if it was running on iPhones, I don't think it's not going to be able to hit their target frame rate goal and all that on Switch. So.
There is another series we should probably both get into before it's released, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Horizon Zero Dawn. Why would we need to get into that when we're a Nintendo-focused website and channel, right?
Yeah, right? I mean, like, Sony has graciously decided that Aloy in brick form is allowed to come to Switch with LEGO Horizon Adventures, which was the first announcement at Summer Game Fest Live, which had also been rumored for ages, but not for Switch. But it's on Switch.
Yeah, this was a very strange thing, because right when it came up, I think Craig and Steven were sitting between us, but I definitely remember like collectively all 4 of us were like, oh, okay, there it is. It looks great. And then the Switch reveal popped up, and I don't remember if I heard that from one of you 3 or if I was looking at the screen and just just blacked out or what. But that was like that was a surprising thing to see this come to Switch, because you really would expect it to just stay on PlayStation and maybe PC, I guess. But
right, and maybe Xbox, because like you think about like the console playability of that series, and like it never in any way would you think that an Aloy starring game would come to Switch. But then you see it's Lego and you're like, oh, it actually makes sense, because like the Lego games always sell the best on Switch. Like, that's just a fact. But you got to play this in like the secret basement in Summer Game Fest.
I did, yeah.
What did you think of it?
Well, first, I just want to point out the basement. Yeah, there is a Summer Game Fest basement. I went down into it and I survived. and I actually had a lot of fun. So it turns out it wasn't as dark and scary as we had thought. After actually getting my hands on this game, it makes a whole lot more sense why it's actually coming over to Switch, because this game is telling the story of the first Horizon Zero Dawn game, just in like this much more kind of cute and like silly manner. And it has me so much more interested in Horizon than I've ever been before, partially because I just love Ashley Birch as like a voice actor and just as like an all-around like comedian. And she's the one who voiced Aloy in the original Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, and now she's back at this. But yeah, getting to play that like silly character instead. And it's a very simple kind of like Lego Star Wars style like Lego game where you're just kind of running around, beating up enemies. There's lots of like additional weapons that you can pick up to kind of like boost your character. Like you can we found a fire upgrade at one point. There are like explosive barrels laying around, but there's also lots of additional abilities. Like at one point we found a thing that let us like summon the hot dog cart man from the trailer, which I was surprised to see. Like he actually is in the game, and he'll like chuck exploding hot dogs at the enemies.
It's amazing.
Yeah, there's just a lot of care that's been put into this. I didn't get to explain this in the written preview, but there's like a hub world as well that will let you kind of go from level to level.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you can change your character and your costumes there. You can kind of customize the village as well to your liking. You can even customize like what the NPCs in the village look like. There's a wardrobe that you can purchase with bits that you unlock by playing the game, and you can pick up NPCs and chuck them into the wardrobe, and then you can customize what they look like, and they'll stay that way in the village. So like if you have favorite characters from the series that you want to kind of like populate your town, or like there's tons of different costumes just like from like the Lego universe as well that don't fit into the Horizon mold. But yeah, I think this is going to be like a great entry point for kids and families because it has that co-op mode too.
Yeah, I do love that like non-serious angle it's taking, because like from my knowledge of Horizon, I've played like a little bit of it, but not like a lot. Like Aloy is like a very independent character, and she can also get like, she like knows what she wants, and she's got like a great sense of humor. She's got like a great relationship with other characters. So to like ramp that like up to like 11 with like Ashley Birch's like incredible voice work, it's gonna be really fun to see play out. And I think that like a lot of kids will really like her because it is this like really cool kick butt lady who is just like now a minifigure who throws hot dogs at people and like summons other people to do that. And yeah, it's like the Lego movie made a Horizon game basically. And I really love like that Lego like allows these like franchises to like branch out from just like, you know, it's not like, oh, it's Star Wars in Lego. There is also like really stupid stuff, and it leans into that like funny side of Star Wars or the funny side of Indiana Jones and things like that. Like it really brings out the personality even more in those series than they already are. And so yeah, Horizon on Switch is Lego Horizon on Switch even is really cool, and I'm really excited to see it. And it'll be a great game for kids too because it comes out in the holidays. So
speaking of kind of just like the humor that this game brings out, I picked up like an enemy, I think, or something like that, or I chucked a bomb at them. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I made a comment to like our demoist that was playing co-op with me about like how I felt bad for like hurting them, or like I went like, oh, like that poor human, and they were like, what do you mean? That's a cultist, like you need to defeat them. And I was like, oh right, there are still like really scary, serious things in this like Horizon world, but it's just been like cutified by all of the bricks and blocks and the cartoonish faces. And so like the heart of Horizon is still is well intact, it seems. But it's just a lot more approachable now, I think, by like a wider audience. So. Speaking of a game with a very serious story that pulled at our heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah, the new game from Nomada Studio, who made Grease, and if anyone knows anything about that, then Neva is going to do more of the same and more, I think. This game's beautiful, isn't it, Zion? Like, absolutely stunning to look at, to listen to. Sound and visuals have always been Nomada Studio's strong point, and it really works here. What I really love about Neva is that it's like 2D The Last Guardian, basically, which is like the third game from Team Eco, right? And so you're like looking after this little wolf cub and you're guiding it around. And just in like the demo we played, which was just one chapter, there's 4 chapters. So we played through basically a quarter of the game. It's going to be about 5 hours long, the whole game. You see like the little wolf cub She like goes from like being super nervous, worried about jumping over gaps, to like fighting enemies and like being by your side and like running off and being independent, and it really just sets the whole tone for the game, and it's stunning. Like, it's very simple to play. Like, it's simply just like run through the levels, some light platforming puzzles, some like combat puzzles, but like the way the game tells its story through your interactions with Neva is really beautiful, I think. We were kind of amazed at the animations for Neva, weren't we? Like the dogs in particular.
Yeah.
It was so cute. Yeah, the dog, or the wolf, is actually voiced by a real husky, by the way, which I think is super adorable.
Oh, right. It was somebody on the team.
That's right. I don't remember specifically, but it was a husky, which is just completely delightful. But the animations are inspired by like all sorts of like YouTube videos or like cartoon wolves and stuff like that, and it feels really realistic. And like immediately I had this like really strong maternal instinct to like just anything that touched the wolf, I was like, I'm gonna fight you. I'm gonna fight you. And if she gets hurt, like every time she squeaked, because there were a couple of times in the demo where like Neva will get trapped, or she'll be surrounded by these like really dark, thorny thistle type branches, and she'll like bark, or she'll howl, or she'll squeak, and I'm just like, nope, we're not doing this. I'm not doing this.
And her AI is so smart too. Like, she really will like kind of run off on her own, or sometimes she like needs a hug, and just in order to like get on with the moment. And the game isn't. I remember early on too, you were kind of questioning if like there was going to be combat, or if it was going to be kind of a lot of just like puzzle solving and pushing forward. But then that answer quickly got answered.
The minute I asked, I was like, are there like combat encounters? And they were just, and then the developers were like, well, just wait and see. And then literally on the next screen, I had like a chase sequence where I had to fight some enemies off, and it's stressful because, you know, you're trying to chase after your dog as well, who's like running away, but also you've got this like Princess Mononoke / Spirited Away no-face type creature like chasing after you, and it's like scary. Like, I was expecting like this whole like, you know how like in Mononoke how Ashitaka gets like poisoned or infected early on, and I'm expecting a moment like that at some point, which I haven't seen yet, but like never say never, I think.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's been a while coming. It's coming out this year. We don't have a release date at the time of recording, but if you loved Grease, I think this is a no-brainer. Get it on Switch day one, personally.
Yeah. And then we got to play the Plucky Squire, which has been high on our lists for a very long time. This is being co-directed by James Turner, who was the art director on Pokemon Sword and Shield and has designed a bunch of different Pokemon over the years. But now he's been able to not break free, but leave the Pokemon Company and do his own thing. And we ended up getting to play, I think, around 45 minutes or an hour of this game in the end.
It was basically an hour, yeah. We just lost ourselves in this one, didn't we? Like, you played this one, Zion, but I was living viscerally through you because, oh my goodness, you're right. This was probably the game I was most excited to check out, and it honestly lived up to my expectations personally.
Just
watching you play the game, it was like watching a kid play with toys, right?
Sure,
it was so fun.
Which is really nice, yeah. Like, I wasn't sure entirely what to expect out of it either. I think, you know, expectations were pretty high, but only for the reason that, like, you know, we're just really excited about it. The demo started out with us playing as Jot, like inside of this like kids book, and we're kind of getting to flip through the pages, and it feels a lot like a top-down Zelda game where you have a sword and you can kind of you can throw it, and it has like this really nice sound effect where it'll, like, when it lands, like it'll get stuck in a tree or it'll hit a wall or something, and there's like a sword spin. It's very, very reminiscent of a Zelda game.
Yeah.
And we went through and we were fighting some enemies, and then there were points where like we got to jump outside of the book and kind of got like to see this kind of 3D look. And I wasn't really, it's been a while since I've looked at a trailer for the Plucky Squire, and honestly that's something I just do where like I think you've said it as well, where you'll put up blinders when you find a game that you really like want to play, and you won't like soak in any other details about it. You almost try to forget so you can go in without any spoilers or anything. So I completely forgot that like you really did get to explore outside of the book, and we got to solve all of these like little puzzles. We ended up like getting it was like a rocket that we used as like a jetpack as a little buddy.
That's right, yes, a little jetpack, yeah. And he was like, the whole purpose of this was to like, the jetpack's dad was like trapped and you needed to like free him and stuff like that to progress to. So basically the stuff on the outside of the book, affects some of the stuff on the inside of the book. So you had to like solve these puzzles
Right.
to get an item which would open up the path for you inside the storybook. And
That's right.
one of the impressions I got with watching you play is like, I don't think I've seen this much creativity from anything that isn't like, I don't know, like a first party Nintendo game or like anything like Little Big Planet or Astrobot, funnily enough. Like it just has this like level of joy and excitement. Like there was and James Turner described this as like, he wanted every, you know, when you like read a picture book and you're like, there's a surprise on every page. And that was like the feeling he wanted to replicate with this game. And I think he's nailed that. Like every single thing we did, I was like, oh my gosh, you can interact with that. Oh my gosh, look at that sticker. Oh, look at those paper clips. Oh, wait a minute, look at these enemies. It was just bursting with absolute joy, I think.
And from what we gathered as well, it seems like the game, at least the bulk of the game, takes place in like this kid's bedroom as well. So like when you're running around and exploring, there are all of these like things like just littered around the room, like pencils, drawings, paper clips, all sorts of like things that end up become like platforming challenges. Right. And I remember there was one quest where we had to like run around and light a bunch of candles around the room, and we realized that the jetpack that we had equipped on our back, that was the rocket, allowed us to light the candles.
Yes, that was such a cool little moment. It's so obvious, isn't it? But then when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, that's so cool. Like you don't have to have separate tools for things like that. You can just use what you have on you to do what you need to do, basically.
Yeah.
And that puzzle in particular like uses the table's perspective really well, I think. Like there are candles hidden inside like cups or like behind walls, and it's so simple, but like it just like exudes joy, I think. It's such a fun little simple puzzle that, you know, there's a tiny bit of challenge in there, but we know like the jetpack has some work that needs to be done on it and stuff like that. So
I don't know about you two, but it was really nice to hear that James would say that like when he would like come up with a new drawing, or like maybe you remember it a little bit better than I do even, but he would show his kids certain things and they would give him like it would be like the test to see like if they passed the test, you know, to see if it was a good enough drawing or if it was a good enough puzzle, or you know what they thought of it. And that was really sweet to just hear that like he's involving his kids in like this really fun and creative way, because the game does really seem like it's, I mean, of course it's not made by kids entirely, but I can't say it's made by kids, you know, but it has that touch, you know, and
it does.
So unique.
It captures that like childlike imagination that you have like perfectly. Like I watched it and I was like, I would have thought like this as a kid, right? Like, you know, when you like play with action figures and you like invent a whole story for them, and you use things like blocks and toy bricks and like Lego to like make obstacles, whereas on your desk or on the floor or something like that. Whereas now, like as a 30-year-old, I'd be like, well, that's cute, but I wouldn't do that. And I lack that imaginative touch nowadays. Whereas, so I look at this game with envy. I wish I could be like that. But
totally.
Yeah, like the Plucky Squire lets me be like that, at least to a degree.
Yeah. And there was a really cool thing, which I hesitate to spoil here because I think it was just so exciting and shocking in the moment. But there's quite a like drastic gameplay shift that happens that just changes up how you played that segment of the game. And apparently we'll see more shifts in the gameplay as time goes on.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see like how it plays out. So I mean, you have those top down like hand drawn segments that take place in the book, and then you pop out of the book and have the 3D kind of overworld segments, and even you were kind of mentioning as well, we jumped on the side of a pail to kind of replicate a bit of like the Mario Odyssey segments, like the 2D 3D ones. But then it seems like there'll be a lot more that kind of plays off of all of those ideas and just finds more ways to have fun in that world, because it's such a creative toy box, literally.
One thing that is out now, not on Switch.
Oh, right.
Hopefully it'll be coming to Switch. The Rogue Prince of Persia, the second Prince of Persia game even, that came out this year. We've already had The Lost Crown, the Metroidvania, and now the Dead Cells team from Evil Empire is making a roguelike. It's in Steam Early Access right now. It's not planned for Switch right now, but Evil Empire has, Dead Cells. Dead Cells is on Switch. We think it will make it.
Yeah.
We want to talk about it a little bit. Yeah. We both played this one.
This was a lot of fun too. It's one of those things where it's weird that like they demoed this at the show, or at least at the Ubisoft Forward thing, not at Summer Game Fest itself. But But it felt a little weird to be going and like trying this game out when like you said, it's already in early access. But I'm glad we did, because on the outside looking in, I wasn't super excited about the art style, because I didn't really like that kind of that rotoscoped look or whatever it is that they're trying to do there. But once we got like our hands on the game, like all of my thoughts about the art style just completely fell away. And it's so fast and fluid, and it's all about just like the moment to moment gameplay. But I'm not the biggest fan of like roguelites or roguelikes. I like to know that the games that I've played were tailored by a human. At least I think that's my excuse. But it still felt like there's some story baked in here. There's different paths that you can take, and I loved how like not quickly the art style changed, but how like it felt like we only spent like 3 or 4 minutes in the first area, and we were already shuffled on to a new area. So yeah,
the biomes like feel big, but not in a way that feels like too long. Like I think the longest I spent I went through 4 different biomes, or 5 maybe.
Whoa,
because you unlock like different paths, which one of them meant I had to go through a different biome to get to the second biome, which I'd already been to. So it's like, oh yeah, I probably only spent like 10 minutes on them, but there's like the real fluidity of movement and the way that you just move between areas and platforms and stuff like that. And even the combat, it just flows really well. And I'm like shocked that somehow we've never had this before, like a roguelike version of Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
Because the concept makes so much sense with the way that the series plays with like time travel and like going through time or stopping and starting time and things like that. So seeing that played out in like gameplay form is like really cool. The new thing is the Temple of Fire update, which dropped on the 10th of June on PC. That was one part of the thing that we were demoing, which had, I think, a couple of new weapons in there. We didn't get to see the Temple of Fire itself, but what we played of the PC Steam version is really, really cool. And I really hope once this is out of early access, this will come to the Switch or the Switch successor. But for now, like, it still has a way to go. There are definitely some teething problems, but that's what early access is all about, right? Like, fixing those, you know.
Dead Cells came out about a year, or it jumped into early access about a year before it officially launched fully on Switch and stuff. So it would just make a lot of sense for this to come out in a similar fashion. So what did you think of SteamWorld Heist 2?
Good question, Zion. Well, we can't say much right now because the game is currently under embargo, but we can tell you we played it.
We did.
And we can tell you that if you love SteamWorld Heist, we think you'll like this one. We had a lot of fun with it. There's some new changes, like the world map, which we've seen in trailers so far, the sea travel. SteamWorld has such a storied history on Nintendo, especially with like the DS and the 3DS games, that SteamWorld Heist 2 is going to be great on Switch. So yeah, look out for our thoughts in a couple of weeks' time, and for now, just enjoy what you can of the game online from trailers and such, because I think this is going to be a good one. But something we can talk about, which just got a release date actually post-Summer Game Fest, is Yars Rising, which is WayForward's take on Atari's classic Yars series, which is a completely different genre to the previous games. This one is a blend of like stealth, Metroidvania, and hacking. It's from the Shantae developers, so playing as Emmy, you really get that like Shantae feel and movement.
Yeah, it looked like it had a lot of DNA in like the actual just control of the character.
100%. It seems like super original in some ways. This year has been really stacked for Metroidvanias already, and we don't even have like a release date for the big one, which I'm not going to say the name of right now.
I appreciate that they're doing something new and they're bringing back, there are a lot of homages to Atari games from what we've seen so far.
Yes.
Like the boss that you got to fight against was called Missile Commander, which I think is an old Atari game.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, like all his moves were inspired by the game. Like everything about that game screamed Missile Commander, which was really, really cool. I really like the idea of like paying homage to not just Yars, but like Atari in general through like multiple different gameplay segments and iterations. And the developers at WayForward said that the game was also pretty inspired by Mega Man, which, you know, given that you get like a blaster ability pretty early on, is really cool. It's just the year of Metroidvania just keeps on going. But it's not just the year of Metroidvanias.
Oh.
It's also the year of Shadow the Hedgehog.
Oh my goodness. It is an exciting year as well for Shadow. Like not only did, they make a replica of his bike, Sonic 3 is coming out, the movie. I feel like there are other Shadow things that just are not popping up in my head. But yeah, we got to play Sonic X Shadow Generations.
Yeah.
It seems like a faithful kind of remaster, if not one of the better, one of the best Sonic like 2D/3D games we've ever gotten. But Shadow is getting like his own full... It feels just like a brand new game.
Yeah.
Like, graphically speaking, like, I mean, we played it on PlayStation 5, but it is coming to Switch, and it has us a little concerned about how it's going to make the leap to Switch.
Yes, I agree.
Because it looks so good.
Yeah, there's so much going on in Shadow's levels. We've already had a discussion about this game on the YouTube channel, like, slightly a couple of days ago, so you should go check that video out for more of our full-form thoughts. But yeah, there's a lot going on in Shadow sections. There's, in the 2 levels we got to play, it's like very Sonic Adventure 2 inspired. It's really leaning into like Shadow's lore and Shadow's history and character and stuff like that. The game looks impressive on PS5. Like, it was one of the best looking PS3 games, and actually one of the best looking 3DS games as well, I think. So to see that like carry through onto the console remaster is really cool. Shadow's story feels like a whole new campaign. We don't know how many levels it's going to bring to the table, and we also don't know if anything changes in Sonic's gameplay either for the standard generations playthrough.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we were impressed with what we played. It felt different. It felt like Shadow's stuff felt really good, even if it is a little wonky in places, like kind of how you'd expect. But yeah, it's a good year for Shadow, I think. I think lots of people will be happy to see him fully playable in his own campaign again.
Yeah, I think I was really nervous as well going into this that it was just going to be, I mean, like you said, we still don't know how long this like Shadow campaign will be. Maybe it just will be only a couple levels, and if so, I think that's still fine. As like it was so fun, even just to watch you play because I got to do the boss fight and you got to do the Shadow level, and we, like you said, we talked all about that in that preview. But I'm really excited as a longtime Sonic Adventure fan to go back and check this out and see kind of the Shadow that I've missed. Because when I was a kid, Shadow was the coolest, was one of the coolest things right next to Metal Sonic, and then they just kept using him over and over again and stuff. And and now it's nice to see that he's getting a proper spotlight, I suppose. A proper spotlight.
A proper spotlight, I think, yes.
Video games need to stop coming out.
Yeah, the second half of the year is filling up a bit too much. Sega is one of the culprits, but here's a Sega game that we won't have to wait very long to play at all. Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, which is the first original Super Monkey Ball game in 10 plus years, other than like a mobile game.
And it's the original developers as well, which I didn't realize that they were the ones still like helming this, because I thought they were kind of embarrassed of Monkey Ball, or at least the director. Like
RGG Studios, who are also behind the Yakuza games, also make Monkey Ball, and always have done. Like, it just got folded into RGG, so yeah, it's a really, when you know that, it's kind of funny, but with Banana Rumble, like, this is like an entirely original Monkey Ball game, like
Switch exclusive as well. Like they were saying, like, they're so excited to just be making it just for this console, so they can really like make it the best experience for Switch possible. But
yeah, I was gonna say, like, it looks really bright and colorful on Switch too, and it's like it benefits from just being that Switch exclusive. But yeah, there's like a whole story mode, there's full cutscenes rather than just like the panels that you got in the remake of Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz, right?
Yeah, and they really like help flesh out the characters and like help you understand them more, and give them more personality. And they're so, like, the new one, Palette, I think her name is so adorable as well.
Yes, she's so cute. Yeah, she looks great. I played as her when I got a little hands-on with it. But yeah, this game's got like 200 levels, all brand new levels, a bunch of mini games that are all multiplayer. They call it battle mode, right? So like, it's basically things like catch the banana, the coin, like hot potato style mini games, things like that, which you can play with up to, was it 24 people or 36?
They were saying a lot of these mini games seem like brand new to the series as well, and I think I asked if Monkey Target was going to be in the game, and they said no, but it sounds like they might consider bringing more like mini games to the game, like down the road through, like, I don't know if it'll be paid or free DLC or what. But there's potential to bring back some of those classic ones as well. But yeah, having the mini games play like with so many players at once really has to kind of, I would imagine that changes how a game gets played. If you're playing Monkey Target with like 30 monkeys barreling down a ramp, it might get a little it might just be a completely different game. So
yeah, it really, I mean, it would feel very Fall Guys, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
like
that's a good
style
point.
Of like knock them off the edge and stuff like that. Yeah, it's 16 people,
16,
so
okay.
it's still a pretty big number. Yeah, but one of the coolest things that we were told was that you can play through the entire 4-player story mode, like 4-player co-op, basically.
Oh, right.
And that's online, so it's 2-player couch co-op or 4-player online, which I think is a really fun little feature.
Yeah, that does sound like something you don't get often enough anymore. It's either like just online or offline, and especially like
just
a campaign.
versus as well.
Right.
Yeah, just like against each other. So this will be really fun. Something that I played that's pretty cute as well is Tales of the Shire, which was a nice little surprise. Yeah, this got announced earlier this year, and I got to spend some time with it. It's another one of those cozy games, and if you don't pick up, like, Tales of the Shire is a Lord of the Rings style game, but it's all about the hobbits, developed by Weta Works, which is a New Zealand-based studio, so, like, obviously they've worked with the IP for a very long time, and so Lord of the Rings is very much in their DNA, and this surprised me a little bit, honestly. Like, it's super cute and cozy, and it does feel familiar in many ways, but I think the big difference with Tales of the Shire is that it draws on, like, the hobbits' love of food, like, so much.
Oh,
like,
really?
The real focus of it, it's not really a farming sim or, like, a life sim. It does have aspects of those, but really everything you're doing is surrounded by cooking. Every request you get will involve you like making food for people, but the requests will also go down to like, oh, I want something that's salty, or I want something that's got like a smooth texture. And you can affect like food's flavor and texture through cooking it in particular ways. Like as you progress, you'll go from just having a chopping board and a frying pan to having like a pickling jar or like another saucepan or like a steamer or other cooking utensils that you can use. Like you can mash things, you can grate things, and you can add different seasoning as well, like garlic, which will make it spicier. It's really integral to the experience, which I thought was really cool, because like you don't really see like cooking with that much depth in a video game unless it's like Cooking Mama, and even then it's like mini games. It was a really pleasant surprise, because I just kind of dismissed is not the right word, but like I saw it and I was like, oh, I don't love Lord of the Rings, and I've kind of got like all my cozy games already. But then when I sat down to play it, I was like, this is doing like a lot to differentiate itself. Like it's really quest driven, like Hello Kitty, but also that focus on cooking is like, you don't really think like any other franchise could do it in the way that like a Hobbit character in Lord of the Rings does. And luckily they're not just hobbits in the game, there will be dwarves, there will be a couple of other characters, and it is canonical to Lord of the Rings itself, so it's set after the Hobbit and before the Fellowship of the Ring. So who knows, maybe we'll get to feed Gimli something, maybe we'll have a beer with Gimli. Who knows.
This one we only got to play for a brief minute, well, not a minute, 10 minutes. But it was called While Waiting. It felt like a WarioWare game in the sense that you had like only, I don't know how much time we actually played each kind of, mission or each session, but
it's like a couple of minutes it felt, right?
Yeah. So we were like kind of thrown into this room or this world where this person was waiting for something. Sometimes they were waiting for a bus, sometimes they were waiting to use the bathroom, or they were waiting for the rain to let up. And it was all about like your character kind of trying to just like keep themselves occupied in that moment.
Yeah.
Oh, we were also waiting for traffic at one point, right? So we were like stuck in a car, and we were able to open the door and then explore outside the car, and that's where we found some little like ducklings that had all been separated and lost their mom. Each level will have like multiple objectives that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so in that one, I think we were trying to like reunite the ducklings with their mom, and we never made it happen in the end. But we checked a few boxes off of that.
Yeah. Opening the window, a bird pooped on your head.
Oh, that's right.
And also another objective was to get run over by a car.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, what? And I think when you went into the first one was waiting for the bus, and you get handed like flyers, and you could stick the flyer on the face of a dog.
Oh yeah, an actual dog in the world.
Another sticker. Yeah, so it's like, it's really silly. Like, it is very WarioWare inspired in like its sense of humor, I think, because it plays on that idea of like, yeah, everybody waits for things, right? We all wait in line for stuff, and what do we do in that time? We look at our phone, we play with our like fingers, we curl our hair and stuff like that, or we just like, I don't know, go through our purse. And this is just like, well, what if you could do more than that? What if you could, and I don't recommend doing this at home. If you're in a traffic jam, don't just get out the car.
Yeah.
But you can live that fantasy in this, if that is your fantasy, which, fair play to you, I think. But it just looks super silly, and I appreciate that like indie developers are willing to go out there and just be like, hey, let's make a game about waiting. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Really easy.
They're
It's
so
like
confident, right? In a game about waiting.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest surprises to see, it was at Day of the Devs first, was UFO 50, which was announced 7 years ago, Zion. Can you believe that?
7 years? No kidding. I mean, like, the game is
7
packed.
years. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this is, for anyone who doesn't know, this is Mossmouth, the developer of Spelunky, is next game. And it's basically about, like, a fictional games console with a fictional developer in a fictional world. And you are playing all these games on this game console, and it's all made by, what was the developer called, like UFO Games or something? Like there's
that sounds right.
Fictional, yeah, and it's like 50 different games, all ranging from like arcade games to platformers to shooters to, I think they even said like there's probably going to be like miniature RPGs in there and things like that. And we only got to play a couple of games because we only really had like 15 minutes with this one. It was like a kind of like speed dating style like scenario where we would try all these different indie games out, but we played some co-op ones, and like just to point out, like the way the game filters is really impressive to me. They can filter it by year, genre, platform, number of players, co-op versus. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, it really feels like you're playing like a Sega Genesis or a Sega Mega Drive like Ultimate Collection package, you know, or something like that. Like the way it's put together.
Like,
but it is all these things. Yeah, that like it's from this console that never actually existed, like you were saying, and the developers like hesitate to call these games mini games either as well, or micro games, because they really are just like full game packages, like you would, you know, like something you would have bought for full price back on the NES or the Famicom or something like that. It's really impressive.
It's crazy. Like the ones we tried out, like the first one was like, was it Kickoff or Kick Time? I can't remember the name of it exactly, but it was like a blend of like Bubble Bobble and Rainbow Islands, but instead you were like kicking a football around, and there was some like old Super Mario Bros in there, and you just had to destroy all the enemies before you moved on to the next level. It was just really clever. And the last one we played, we both like started up, it was like this like top-down shooter, but you play as like two different animals, and we just both looked at each other and we're like, this is Pocky and Rocky. Yeah. Like, it's straight up just Pocky and Rocky, but like different environments and different enemies and stuff like that. It was so cool to see like so many like ideas packed into like one big fictional package, which I think you can play through these games in any order, but I think if I remember rightly, there's like not a story mode necessarily, but if you play them in like release order, you get like the development story of like a video game developer's history, right?
Wow,
so it's like creating this like whole narrative of like, this is like the first game the studio made, and then like, oh, this is the very last game, and maybe there's like a difference in quality, like deliberately so, between them all, or some are more ambitious than others. But it's like such a fascinating project that I was in love with the idea of it, and then like playing it, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is like so cool. I wish we could have like played a couple sequentially, but we wanted to check out the co-op ones, and the co-op was really fluid as well. I mean, albeit we were playing on PC, but like, yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah, this doesn't seem like the kind of thing that will have trouble running on Switch. Just kind of a matter of when right now, or even if because right, it's only been announced for PC so far, correct? But
right, it's out September 18th, I think, on PC, which, you know, after years of silence, like to get a Day of the Devs was so surprising and so cool. It was a busy week, wasn't it, Zion?
It was.
Lots of video games, lots of people.
I did want to ask you, do you think you have a game of the show for you personally? And it doesn't have to be a definitive one. I can also give my answer first as well if you want, because I'm the one who just came up with the question. So,
of the ones we played for Switch, or that are coming to Switch, I should say, I think the Plucky Squire is it. I think the Plucky Squire is just, I said earlier on, like everything that I wanted from it and more. It feels really confident and smooth and just full of charm and personality. It's like this blend of like Zelda, but also like so many other like toy box games, and just really brings me back to like loving the idea of play and creativity. And I love how it ties everything together with like this narration. It feels like a real storybook video game. Yeah, like I couldn't be happier with how it's turning out so far. So I really want it to come out sooner rather than later, but obviously I've got to wait. But yeah, Plucky Squire for me is number one, at least in terms of like stuff that's 100% coming to Switch. Yeah. So yeah, what about you, Zion?
I wish that I had something else to say, but no, that it's the same as well. I mean, were other games, like I really enjoyed my time with like Horizon Adventures. I loved watching you play Neva, obviously. obviously. Hello Kitty Island Adventure, it could very easily suck a lot of time up for me, which might be a bad thing in the end. But yeah, the Plucky Squire I think is still the game that I'm thinking a lot about and I want to jump back into that world, and I want to explore all the little nooks and crannies, and I want to find a little rock that was painted in the corner of the level that I will only find in that corner of the level. And I want to see the drawings that James Turner had his friends make for the game, scattered about. It reminds me of something that we would have seen like in the GameCube era.
100%.
It feels like these days too, right? Like you have so many games that are just trying to like do the thing, check the box and get all the sales on the shelf. And I know that games need that, but this game really does feel like just a passion project through and through.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe next year we can get one of those, like, how studios will have, or journalists will have like those signs that they pass out or whatever to like to the studio, and they like let them put the sign up at their booth or whatever. Maybe we can make one of those next year, because I think after playing Plucky Squire, we probably could have just crowned it right then and there.
I think so, yeah. We both walked out of that appointment with a big smile on our face, and we played that before playing Neva, and it was like a whiplash, wasn't it? Like
it was
emotional.
Yeah,
it was so worth it. But yeah, it was superb. I'm so glad that you loved it as much as I did, Zion.
Me too.